Hi, this is Dr. E, and welcome to the First Biology Video Notes. If you plan to keep your notes on the laptop, you should create a biology folder and then create subfolders for each unit. The subfolder for the first unit should be titled The Nature of Science. Please make sure to back up all your work. Alrighty, you ready to begin? The nature of science. Throughout human history, people have tried to explain the world around them. What are those lights in the sky? Where did the plants and animals come from? Religion tries to offer explanations. Philosophy tries to offer explanations. And in the early years, myths and legends try to offer explanations. Science also tries to offer explanations. How does science differ from all other explanations? First, science assumes all events have a natural cause. Supernatural explanations are not allowed in science. What do we mean by a natural cause? A natural cause is anything that could be observed either directly or indirectly by any of our senses. Indirect observations may be something like sonar to detect objects under the water, or using a microscope to see objects not visible by the naked eye. Second, scientific explanations are testable. In order to test something, it must be observable or measurable, directly or indirectly. Thus, it has a natural cause. Third, results of an experiment must be verifiable. What does verifiable mean? This means that the test must give the same result each and every time someone performs the test. So every time you perform the test, you should get the same result. Every time someone else performs the test, they should also get the same result. In other words, it must be repeatable. Thus, multiple trials are essential in science. Fourth, wrong answers must be refutable or falsifiable. What does refutable or falsifiable mean? This means if an explanation is wrong, science must be able to prove the answer wrong by means of a test. Science can prove something wrong, but can never prove something right 100%. We always leave that little bit of doubt just in case a new and better experiment comes along that has evidence that shows that the answer might not be right. So there's a built-in flexibility to science. So we never say we prove something right. We could prove it wrong, but we can't prove it right. Are all questions answerable by science? Well, the short answer is no. Right? Science does not answer questions that are not testable. For example, science does not answer ethical questions, moral questions. It does not answer opinion questions. It does not answer religious questions. Lastly, the word theory is used very differently in science. Right? In science, a theory is an answer that has been tested over and over again in many different ways and is supported by a huge amount of evidence from these tests. Thus, a theory in science is as close as we could get to proving something correct. To sum it all up, science is a way of explaining the world around us by means of testing, limited to answering questions with natural explanations. Alrighty, let's check your understanding and see how well you understood what Dr. E just said. Alright, so first, what I'd like you to do is indicate which of the following explanations are really scientific explanations. All right, number one, it rains because the clouds are crying. Is that a good scientific explanation? If you said no, well, you are absolutely correct. Right? This is not a good scientific explanation. You can't measure it. You can't test it because you can't measure it and because you can't observe it. All right. Two, guppies will have more babies if the light is turned off part of the time. Is that a good scientific explanation? What do you think? Well, it's observable, it's measurable, so you can test it. So the answer would be yes. Three, thunder's caused because people made God angry. Is that a good scientific explanation? What do you think? Can you measure it? Can you observe it? Nope. So it's not testable. All right. It also doesn't assume an answer with a natural cause. So no. How about number four? Thunder is caused by the rapid expansion of air due to heating by lightning. Is that a good scientific explanation? Well, it's observable, it's measurable, therefore we can test it. It definitely assumes a natural cause, so absolutely yes. All right, let's change it up a bit. Now I want you to indicate which of the following questions are in the realm of science. Remember, science does not answer all types of questions. Number one, does God exist? Would science try to answer that question? No. It's not observable, it's not measurable, you can't test it, it doesn't assume a natural cause. Number two, what is the nature of the human spirit? Is that a good question for science to answer? Again, the answer is no. You can't measure it, you can't observe it, therefore you can't test it. Number three, what is the purpose of life? Is that a good question for science to answer? What do you think? Or if you said no, good job. Right? Again, can't observe it, can't measure it, therefore it's not testable. Number four, which perfume smells better? Well, that's really an opinion question. You can't really measure it, you can't observe it. So no, science would not try to answer that question either. Should cloning be allowed? Well, if you said no, guess what? You are correct. All right. So science can answer how do you clone, but it's the public, it's society who has to decide whether they want cloning to exist. That's an ethical question. Science doesn't decide that for society. Society decides that. So no, science will not try to answer that question. All right, last one. Are you ready? Does fertilizer increase plant growth? That's measurable. That's observable. Therefore, it's testable. It assumes a natural cause. So that is a question that science can answer. Alrighty, good job. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a good night.